going on, everybody? Happy New Year. If you're catching this video as I put it up, it is the beginning of a new year. However, the things I'm going to be talking about, I think, are going to be relevant at any time. But before I really dive into that, just kind of mention what I'm working on here. I did this drawing of a medieval griffin, and so I'm inking it. And I just kind of use my typical process, which is generally to pencil digitally or with real pencil and real paper, which is what I did in this case. And then I take the drawing, turn it into a non-photo blue color, and I print that out onto a sheet of Bristol board for inking using Speedball India ink here. And my weapon of choice, Winsor Newton Series 7. I believe for this piece I used the size 0. Now the reason why I drew this griffin is for two reasons. One is because I'm thinking about changing my branding a bit. I've been using a portrait of Monkey Mod for a while, and I think I've been using it because it seems like people who've been following me for a while kind of associate me with this comic book character that I created. But Monkey Mod is not all I do. So I've been thinking about changing my branding a bit to kind of represent more of who I think I've been becoming in the last couple years and what I want my body of work to be moving forward from here. I'm having a real tough time saying this word. In medieval heraldry, a griffin represented strength, virtue, and courage. All things that have become very important to me. Now the second reason why I'm doing this is because I wanted to make myself a t-shirt that I could wear to remind myself of my goals, the mission I've set out for myself, and the person I want to be. At the end of the video, you'll see the final design all finished. But the things that I was thinking about while doing this, not only the symbolism of the griffin, but also that the design needed to be simple and quickly define how I'm moving forward. As some of you know, I've had a rough few years. Last year started kind of grim, and then things started to get a bit better, at least better than they had been. And I could see glimpses into the life that I wanted to have. Or I should rather say that it was possible to have the life that I wanted to have. And in the summer of 2017, my YouTube channel doubled in growth. And I started gaining some momentum on making videos. And then, as some of you might know, around August 2017, I disappeared for a while. That wasn't the original plan. Here's some video from back then where I described where I went in August. Hey, what's up, everybody? I am leaving Portland for a couple weeks, going to LA. Going to be working at the same office that I worked at last year, just for 2 weeks this time, not 7 months. Get to see a bunch of my friends, get a little recharge, considering this kind of a working vacation. It's a pretty long drive though. Hey, I made it! Look, palm trees! I was pretty excited, feeling really positive about that trip. I liked the place I was going to work at, again, the same place I worked at the year prior, and I'd really been missing my friends. So I got through a week of work, I'd been making plans to see a bunch of people, and I got to hang out with some of them that first week, and made plans to go visit one of my friends on that first weekend back in Southern California at one of the happiest places on earth, Disneyland. I remember it being a really hot, clear, gorgeous day, and I always have fun at Disneyland, so I was pretty excited. But what I also remember is that about halfway through the day, I felt really abnormally tired. And, I just kind of chalked it up to, well, I've been pushing myself, trying to fit in a lot of things, because I was only going to be in Southern California for 2 weeks, on top of working a 9 to 5 while I was there. And then by the end of the day at Disneyland, I was just beat, like super beat. And, I've been to Disneyland all day before, and I've not felt that bushed before. So, I didn't think much of it. I just thought, went to Disneyland on a Sunday, I was going to get through work on Monday and just go straight to bed after work. So I did go to work feeling pretty tired that Monday, and after lunch I started feeling really sick to my stomach. And by the time work was over and I got back to my friend Josh's house who I was staying with, my stomach just killed, and then I started puking nonstop for hours. I just thought I had something bad for lunch. I thought I had food poisoning or something. That's what it felt like. It was awful. And so what was going through my head was just like, oh my god, I'm just down here for 2 weeks and I do need this work, so I can't be sick. I just kept telling myself, okay, you just ate something bad, you got food poisoning, just puke it up all night and get back to work tomorrow. The next morning I wasn't better. I was worse, in fact. And the pain had moved from the middle of my stomach down to the lower right side of my abdomen. And it's a pain I've never felt before. I don't know, it was pretty bad. So I ended up having a little hospital stay. As it turns out, I was the lucky recipient of an appendicitis. So went into the emergency room, went to the hospital. They did an appendectomy that night. Had some friends come to the hospital, which was very nice. And I think I was in there for about 2.5 days total. And then I ended up staying at Josh's house, I think 10 days more than I was supposed to be staying down there. So I was supposed to recover. I just stayed to get my stitches out from the doctor I had there. And the doctor was pretty adamant about me not driving 1,000 miles for a while. But my birthday was coming up, and I wanted to be back in Portland for that. So I stayed, got my stitches out, and drove back up to Portland a little bit earlier than the doctor wanted me to. Then, as I was driving north, about 60 miles from the California-Oregon border, my car died. And I was not close to any town. Ended up sitting there, I think it was like 3 hours before AAA finally came. They towed me about 60 miles to a little town called Wairika in California. And when I got there, everything was closed. So I had to get a hotel room. Then in the morning, find a mechanic to see what was wrong. As it turned out, my transmission blew. So I had to leave my car there. I looked on Yelp for a rental car because I wasn't going to stay in Wairika for 7 to 10 business days, like the mechanic said it would take, to get the parts and fix the car and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I'm hobbling around. I look for this rental car place, and it's out of business. It's closed. There's no way out of this town. So I hear about this taxi service that's in town, which is the only taxi service in town, and it's one Scion. And so for, I don't know, it was like $100 or something, they would drive me to the next town where I could get a rental car, which was 35 miles or 40 miles away in Ashland, Oregon. So we went there, got my rental car, drove up to Portland. Was here for about a week, and then I had to do everything in reverse. Anyway, it was like I'd gone down to LA to make some money. The money you can make down there is a lot more generally than you can make in Portland, it seems like, or at least in my experience so far. And, the trip just didn't turn out how I expected at all. Instead of coming back all recharged and stoked to be coming back up with a full wallet, I just hemorrhaged money. I probably should have just left my car there and gotten something else up here in Portland, but whatever, I didn't. So I had hemorrhaged money on that. I was in the hospital. My insurance didn't cover all of it, so there's still some bills left from that. And then in the meantime, while all this stuff is going on, I'm still spending tons of money on my lawyer for family court while working out custody of my kid with the ex-wife. And there was some other personal stuff that was going on too that was pretty painful, probably best left unsaid. And that last quarter of 2017 turned out to be pretty rough. And I started going into a dark place. Kind of forgot all the self-improvement and positive training I'd been doing on myself. I started kind of falling back into old habits and looking back at recent time and thinking how crappy my life had become. At one point, I felt like I was living this charmed life and everything. And the past few years, it hasn't all been crap. But I've never experienced such bad luck with such frequency. So I didn't handle it well. I let a lot of negative self-talk creep back in my mind. I just kind of let everything slip. I let the old me that I thought I'd killed come back. Then it all came to a head one morning. I woke up and I was so depressed. And so I asked myself a question. Where were you around this time last year? And unfortunately, being honest with myself, the answer was pretty close to where you are right now. Now things had started to get a lot better. But in that 2.5 month time span, I let all the progress that was being made fall right off a cliff. I got mad at myself and embarrassed that I'd let myself get so low. And that day I told myself that no matter what, no matter how hard it is, that I will not be in this spot again. This time next year, it's not going to be like this. So that morning I put on my running gear because running is what started me off on the path towards self-improvement after I'd gotten separated, divorced, all that. And I had downloaded a book that I recommend. First time I listened to it, it didn't hit me as much as it did this time. So I went running and I listened to this book, and I'm going to censor myself a little bit because of YouTube's new algorithms and stuff. But it's a book called Un-F Yourself, Get Out of Your Head and Into Your Life by Gary John Bishop. I'll put a link to that book in the description below. But anyway, so I ran, I listened to that book, and then I didn't stop listening to it all day as I started getting back into doing comics. Started getting back into doing the things that are important and doing the work to progress once more. In audio format, the book, it's like 5 or 6 hours. So I listened to the whole book that day, and the next day I listened to it again. And a couple days later, I listened to it again. In the beginning of the book, it's something I've mentioned before on a video where I'd kind of come to this conclusion that no matter where you're at in life, it's because of you. good or bad. Now, there's going to be things that people do to you or circumstances that come up that you don't have any control over. But it's in those moments that you need to figure out what to do with those things, how to turn them around, what's the opportunity, what's the new opportunity that you can see in that. What can you learn from the bad things? What could you have done to do better? So then, I was feeling like I had gotten stuck again, and Bishop talks about this concept of I am willing. Basically deciding what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, what you're not willing to sacrifice. And if you find yourself in a bad spot, 9 times out of 10, it's because that's what you've been willing to put up with. And if you're truly unwilling to be putting up with whatever bad situation that you find yourself in, or where your life is at, then you need to be willing to take the steps to change things. And it takes a lot of work. You have to be willing to make some big sacrifices. Complaining is easy. Doing the work is a lot harder. That hit a chord with me, because as much as I don't want to admit it, putting my life into a bad space again is comfortable. It's easy. I know how to do that. But I'm so over it and so unwilling to put up with it now. Bishop talks a lot in the book. You have to be relentless to get what you want out of your life. That word right there, relentless. That is what I'm willing to do, is to be absolutely relentless. Bishop also in this book, he says that we are wired to win, which sounds like your typical self-help book kind of drivel. But he comes at it this way: you're winning at life right now, whether that's good or bad. You're winning at the life you're living. If you don't like the life you're living, what you need to do is find out what you really want to win at and put your focus in that direction and be relentless. When things happen you don't have control over, how are you going to react to them? Are you going to be a victim or take it on the chin? If you're relentless, you'll take it on the chin and move forward. Bishop talks about this idea of embracing uncertainty. The appendicitis, my car breaking down, the ending of relationships. Some examples of things I didn't plan on this past year. But if you can just remind yourself that life isn't ever certain, then it's a lot easier to take those things in stride and be strong and know that it's not always going to be this way and everything's going to be okay. Instead of pelting yourself with negative self-talk, because that ends up ruining everything you want to accomplish. So you have to take it on the chin, ignore those voices, and take positive action. You got to fight through the adversity, you got to fight through your failures. There's always going to be things that get in the way. Whether it's an unforeseen circumstance, whether it's people getting in your way, telling you what you can or can't do, you have to be relentless, accept whatever happens, move forward anyway. It's not good enough to say I want something. You have to take action, or else nothing changes. You have to move forward. You have to strive to win, and you'll get there. Gotta be relentless. So anyway, I'm doing a lot of paraphrasing of this book, but I highly recommend it. Once again, there's a link in the description below if you want to pick up a copy. So that brings me to the end here. You can see the Griffin design as I finished it. It's got my word going into the new year and moving forward. Relentless. The Griffin, the strength, courage, and virtue in the middle. And down at the bottom, there's a banner, and it says, I'm going to totally butcher this probably, Illegitimi non carborundum. Latin's not my first language. And what that is, it's kind of a mock Latin aphorism, and it means, don't let the bastards grind you down, or don't let the bastards beat you down. I've heard it both ways, depending on who you're talking to, but it means the same thing. And so this is the design I made for myself, so that I could look at and remind myself of my mission, what I need to do, moving forward, how I want to be. And even though I made it for myself, there's something that I wanted to do last year. I want to do a new t-shirt design every month, one a month for a year. And so for January 2018, if this is a shirt that you might like, that you might think is cool, that might help you out, you can pick up one over at my store just for this month, if you're watching in January 2018. So there will be a link in the description to pick this up below. And I think that's going to do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all the comments from everybody that I always get. You guys are awesome. I'm going to make sure my next video is not so heavy. I'm going to make sure it's a fun one. In the meantime, though, Happy New Year, no matter when you're watching this video. And starting today, be relentless. Live the life you want. See you guys soon.